Today is Sunday, April 14th, and this is Celtics Beat on the CLNS Media Network, the leading online provider of audio-video coverage of the Boston Celtics. I'm Adam Kaufman. Episode 310, featuring longtime Boston Globe columnist Bob Ryan, is brought to you by betonline.ag. Get a 50% bonus on your first deposit by going to betonline.ag/CelticsBeat and using the promo code CLNS50 at checkout. All right, we're all ready for the Celtics playoffs to start, so let's jump right in because we have a ton to cover, and who better than with a man who, as the cliche goes, he knows he's forgotten more about basketball than I will ever know. Of course, I'm talking about longtime Boston Globe columnist Bob Ryan and a good friend and member of the CLNS family as well with the Bob Ryan podcast. Bob, how are you?
I'm doing fine, very good.
We have got, as I said, so much to cover here in the next little while and a lot of different layers with this Celtics team. We already kind of did a playoff preview of Indiana even before the regular season was over earlier in the week with Sean Grandy. I encourage people to go back, check that out. You'll get some more of the X's and O's, I think, than we'll necessarily offer you in this particular show, because in this one, Bob, it's kind of the big picture storylines. And this one, of course, is the biggest one. Marcus Smart is out 4 to 6 weeks, a torn left oblique. Based on that timeline, which Brad Stevens did call aggressive, that's somewhere between mid-second round and the middle of the conference finals if the C's get there. So, Celtics screwed or what?
Well, they're impaired. They're lesser. It's not good news. He is truly irreplaceable in that if they were to lose a forward, if they were to lose any of their top forwards, and they're well stocked, you would say, okay, all right, next man up, and hopefully it would work out. I don't care. We're talking about Tatum, we're talking about Hayward, we're talking about Brown, we're talking about Morris. It doesn't matter. This guy is sui generis. Not only do they not have anybody else like him, no one has anyone like him. Mm-hmm. He is the wild card, junkyard dog man of the year every year in the NBA, and there's nobody like him. So the stuff he does, the unpredictable stuff, the goofy, wacky stuff, where's he coming? I'm the other team. I'm always worried. I want to know where he is on the floor. Where's he coming from? What's he going to do next? He makes unmakeable plays, and he provides an energy, and he can go out and flat-out guard somebody. And, oh, by the way, he's shooting 41% from the three-point line since the All-Star break. But that aside, which is great because that was always the great what-if, they can't replace that. No one could. So they're going to have to make up. Now, they have a body, and he was the point guard. They're well stocked. They've got Rozier backing up Irving, but they don't have anybody to back him up, and that's going to be a loss. Can they overcome it against Indiana? You'd like to think so. I mean, if Indiana could get as far as they got without Oladipo, these guys should be able to get as far as they are without Marcus Smart. All I'm simply saying is it's not a matter of next man up with Marcus Smart. It's a matter of, okay, we have to go in another. We have to do it differently.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue, and I've said this before, especially as you go into the playoffs, and I agree. I'm really not worried about the Pacers. I think the Celtics win this series in 5 or 6 games. It's the next round and beyond that you think about with the lack of Marcus Smart, if in fact he misses all of round 2, as one of the reports has been. But I would say that he is the third most important guy on this team, next to Kyrie Irving and Al Horford, because of, as you said, all the #winning plays, all the intangibles, all the things that you can't quite define statistically because, as you said, he's a difference maker. He's first team all defense. He can shoot now. I think the only thing you didn't say, but you certainly know, is he's the emotional leader of this team. This team really goes with Marcus Smart in a lot of different ways, and that is irreplaceable. That is the thing that you can't cover up, and that is the aspect that I worry about the most.
Yeah,
is if they're down, how do you replace that?
And when I add it all up, there are still people out there who don't buy it, and they don't get it. And I'm just tired of talking to them. They haven't had a chance to watch him long enough. He's a senior guy on this team. Yeah, he's been around long enough for people to figure it out and see what the benefits are, and the benefits are tremendous. And so but. Fortunately, the pond is stocked with lots of good trout here, though, still, I mean, we've got, so starting with Irving, who is a transcendent talent, I'm certainly a very interesting human being beyond that, but that's another topic for another day. But basketball-wise, he is a big-time player, and And we know that Hayward, the most heartening thing that's happened in the last 3 weeks, obviously, is that Gordon Hayward has simply went out and played basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Period. He's played Gordon Hayward basketball. He wants to go to the hoop, he goes to the hoop. He wants to pull up, he pulls up. He wants to do this, he would make a pay. He's playing free and easy and comfortably, and the way that he played that earned him the big contract, and people haven't seen it often enough. And that's a tremendously heartening sign. That's why I was feeling so good until I pick up the paper and saw that nasty word oblique. You don't want to see that word.
Yeah.
And I, oh, no, come on, not now. But fortunately, Hayward's here and playing the way he can play, and that's really good news.
Bob, I don't know what people expected from Danny Ainge, but of course he said what you would anticipate he say, which is that he had no problem with Marcus Smart going back into that game in Orlando.
You always have to listen to the player. I mean, you sprain your ankle and you say, I can still play, and, sometimes you can, and sometimes you go out there and you go, no, I'm hurting the team or I'm going to re-injure it. So, thank goodness it was just ran up the court one time and ran back, and he knew he was not able to play. So, I don't put any blame on that. That's just, you always listen to the players, and we know Marcus is going to try to play if he can, and he couldn't. I certainly don't question Coach Stevens for playing him either. You got to play guys, and it was a good game and good competition. You can't go for a long period of time without getting reps and getting play, and the plan was to play those guys against Orlando, and leading up to that game we didn't know if we had a home court advantage locked up until right before tip-off. So the guys were prepared and ready to play, and I don't think Brad was planning on playing Marcus in the fourth quarter, but it happened in the third. You can't put him in bubble wrap. I remember in 1987 I got hurt in practice leading up to the playoffs, and it bothered me the entire playoffs, and I was never the same player, but you got to practice, you got to have contact, and there's always risk of injury.
Here's what I take exception to, Bob. It was a totally meaningless game. The fourth seed was secure at that point. The third seed was out of the question. It was completely meaningless. And unlike the regular season finale in D.C. when no one other than Jaylen Brown and Terry Rozier played, Brad was coaching like it was a playoff game. Jason Tatum gets hurt. Fortunately, he's thought to be mostly fine. Marcus goes down, re-enters the game, and then down 14, Kyrie Irving goes back in, and he's going balls to the wall. Brad has made some, and I love Brad. We've talked about that. I absolutely love Brad. I'm not like, oh, fire Brad. That's stupid. Brad has made some questionable decisions this year, though, and this game has to take the cake.
All right, I'm not going to be able to add anything to the discussion. I'm just going to say I want to let you have the last word simply because I was out of town. I didn't see it. I was in Minneapolis, and everything I know about the last week of the season is what I read and heard. And so you're making sense. Danny sounded good to me, but you're right. The context of the game probably might have dictated a less aggressive approach, shall we say? Now, is the implication that by that one time running up and down the floor, he hurt himself more? I don't think. Is that what you're saying? I don't know. I'm asking.
Well, I don't know either. I'm not a doctor, and obviously, if as both Danny and Brad have said, if the training staff gives you the thumbs up and the player wants to go in, I guess I don't know what you're supposed to do. But you can also look at it and just say, let's take the precaution. Why even push it? What's the point?
I'm not going to. I just can't add anything to it. Really, in this particular thing, if I had seen it, I probably would have a more direct answer. But that's all I can say. I don't know. That's it. I just can't comment on that one.
No, that's fine. We'll address a couple other things as it pertains to Terry Rozier. Let's listen first, though, to Brad and Danny on the fact that, as we said it, you can't replace Marcus Smart.
We want everybody to play within what we're trying to do to their individual strengths. So that doesn't change rotation to rotation. I think that ultimately whoever's playing together needs to focus on what their jobs are and control what they can control. Nobody's going to be Marcus Smart. We don't expect anybody to be Marcus Smart. We didn't expect anybody to be Kyrie Irving last year. They just have to do what they do best and focus on what we need to do as a team.
He's in okay spirits. He was bummed. He was in pain. The worst type of injuries sometimes are those that you think you can play with, that you don't get to be yourself. So this is, thank goodness we have other guys that can step up and take Marcus' spot. Now, no one completely replaces Marcus, but it's an opportunity for other guys to play. Maybe Terry will have some fun now.
People, I'm sure, remember, of course, Terry Rozier had made the comment that it wasn't a fun season for him. I can't imagine it was, but he said that he knows he has to step in and perform.
It's tough seeing that. I just feel like I'm more important to the series now. I'm more needed. and step up. I'll be ready for it.
So, Bob, we've heard from enough people. What do you expect from Terry? Can he show what he did in Kyrie's place in the playoffs last year, or is it going to be more of that not fun regular season when he was generally a disappointment?
I think it's going to be a real challenge for him. One of the open questions prior to this season was how people were going to have to readjust or adjust themselves to the reality of Irving in the backcourt and Hayward in the front court. And if we're going to give a mark to how Rozier handled everything this year, it would probably be a C+, B- at best. And he didn't prorate that productivity. Now, is it that easy to do? No. But he's a very talented young man. He's not Kyrie Irving. And if he thinks he is, and he's got to come to that realization. He's got to start with that. And he didn't have the kind of season consistently that anybody would have liked, and I'm sure himself too. But this is a Big Ten. I don't have the answer. This is one of the great questions. Is he going to be able to provide the same prorated game that he had at this time last year when he was free and easy because he was the starting point guard without any questions? It's one of their questions going into this playoffs. How is Terry Rozier going to perform? So that's I don't have the answer, but he's certainly capable of doing excellent things for this team. But am I fully confident? No, not based on the way he reacted this year. So it's an open question.
Everybody wants to start clearly, and I think that people also make a big deal out of who's your starting unit, who steps in, who's going to be the starter now without Marcus Smart. And you can tell me what makes the most sense to you. Personally, I would go with Jaylen Brown, leave Gordon Hayward running the offense on the second unit. But what do you think?
Oh, boy. Based on the way Hayward played last time, some of the stuff we've seen, a 9-for-9 game in the most important game of the year, and playing like he can play, I'd be, now we can say, well, we can pretend it's 1968 and he's John Havlicek. So we'll bring him off the bench because we know he's going to end the game anyway, and he's going to play 31 minutes anyway. Maybe you could say that, I guess. Here's what
I do think those things are true.
This speaks to the nature of this team, and I'll say it for the 2,487,612th time.
It's precise.
The ideal circumstance for any coach is an unquestioned starting five, followed, buttressed by a sixth man who is a clear multi-position player of some kind. Actually, probably better if he's guard forward. But if he's McHale, we'll live with that. If he's the 83 McHale, we'll live with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Then someone who is a specialist, ideally Lou Williams. But you don't have Lou Williams. You have Marcus Smart. You have a defensive player. You have a point guard. And then you got two other guys who are good NBA players who will help you out. And that's all you need. You don't need – the other three guys can, cheer. That's fine. This team is the worst second-guess nightmare of the coach second-guessing himself and everyone second-guessing the coach. Because I maintain that this team, going into the season, was the best team in the NBA 1-10, maybe 1-12. I still think they're the best team in the NBA, 1-10, maybe 1-12. But that doesn't get it. That doesn't mean anything. That just complicates things. They got too many people who are co-equal, too many people who are interchangeable, which sounds great. Oh, we got depth. And sometimes, but look, did it come out? Did it help this team this year the way it should have? No. And I just am wary that going into the playoffs, we don't have a lineup. I mean, going to Game 77, how many? We don't know who's going to start tonight. It's matchups. It's not the way you want to live, but that's the way Brad Stevens has to live, and it's not easy. And this is the nature of this team. That's all.
What can you've brought up Gordon Hayward, a bunch of times, rightfully so. He had a great, I think it was 8-game finish to the regular season. You can even go a little bit beyond that. But in particular, the last 8 games, just really locked in. I'm not going to say he was Utah Gordon Hayward. Talked about that with Grandy last week. He's not at that level. But as Grandy pointed out, he wasn't even necessarily signed to be that guy. Even if he was fully there health-wise, confidence-wise, mentally, emotionally, all the different elements that made him, him before the injury. He's not exactly precisely there right now. That's fine. He doesn't necessarily have to be either. But what can we realistically expect from Gordon Hayward in his first playoffs in Boston?
I'm really optimistic about Gordon Hayward. I mean, I don't see why if he can't continue to play this way. I think he's found himself. I think he's feeling the best about himself that he's felt since he came to Boston. Since minute 4 of game 1, before of 2017-18.
Right.
By minute 6, his world had changed. Perhaps forever.
Yeah.
But this is the best he's felt about himself. He is an all-star when he's right. He can. Suddenly you're talking. We'll get to Tatum, but I know that he could be your man. He could be your player of the. I won't say MVP. But the man of the match. Every night. I mean, he's capable of that. So I'm optimistic. I'm really, really looking forward to seeing what he's going to do.
Kyrie Irving has gone on and on for months about just wanting to get to the playoffs. Well, they're here. His first with Boston.
I'm just ready to get started, man. It's been a long time. Just trying to get back to this point. It's been a year in my career where I've just learned a lot about my body over the last year. Getting 2 knee surgeries, getting nose surgery, all in the last year, and really setting goals for myself. And I just have a genuine love for the game, and just wanted to be back to this point, playing at the highest level.
How much pressure is he under right now, Bob?
A lot. He has created. He's the center of his own little universe. He has created an aura and a mystique about himself. He is the narrator. He's the producer. He is like LeBron in that he is, but not to the same degree of altitude with the word of stature. Mm-hmm. But he is the writer, the producer, and the director and star of his own production, the Kyrie Irving Show, day after day. That's what he wants, and so here he is. This is the showcase. So I think he's under a lot of pressure to deliver because he's promising a lot. I mean, he's promising a lot.
During the week, Irving spoke about his season, what a trying year it was for him. He went on and on and on, as he typically does when he's in the mood to do so, but here's just a little bit of it.
A lot of just up and downs that just could have been handled better from a professional standpoint. And I'm talking about me personally. I'm not talking about our team. And it's just I had a lot of questions, a lot of things that weren't being answered straight up about what it takes to be a great professional in this league. And I think that the frame of that is just outdated in terms of what you have to be every single day, and it's not that hard. All the stuff that comes with it, I think that it's an exciting part of that you got to be aware of, but the real part is just literally what I used to wake up every single morning to do, put a ball in the hoop and be really great at it.
He took accountability, for once didn't put anything on his teammates and throw them under the bus, call it the young guys, all that. But aren't you kind of ready for this guy to just stop talking? And not in the, shut up and dribble offensive way, just in the, okay, you've preached it, now show it sort of way.
Well, you may know that I've been, maybe not, but why should I presume that you know that? I'm sorry. I apologize for being presumptuous here. I have been saying for a couple of months that if in any point in time you see his lips about to move, my advice to you is put your hands over your ears and pay no attention to what he is saying, because it has no bearing on what he said yesterday or what he'll probably say tomorrow. Or where is, and concurrent with that, don't worry about where he's going to be in 2021 or 26, 27. Just enjoy him while we got him, because no one knows what's going to happen, and don't start worrying about it. Just enjoy him and try to get the most out of it while we have him. Right? I don't pay attention to what he says. I'm tired of hearing him too. Just go play the way he can play at an extremely high level, and he can lift the team. He can certainly make shots that no one else in this team can make, and in big moments. So just go play. I agree.
How did he say it? I think in to paraphrase, it was the framework of today's NBA star is outdated, something along those lines. You've covered the NBA now. You've covered the NBA longer than Kyrie Irving has been alive. Quite frankly, almost twice as long. What in the world does he mean by that? Like what?
I don't know. It's so funny. I'm glad you asked that, because as I was listening to this bite that you just played, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, I'm just thinking about the days of West, Robertson, Havlicek, etc. Russell, Wilt, and then on to the next level, onto the Magic and Michael and Larry era and so forth, and Barkley, the next level of great superstars, and Kareem. Oh my God! And I'm saying we never heard any of this crap from these people. We never heard all this self analysis. They just went out and played. They got paid. They played. Yeah, they had issues. I mean, God knows, I travel with a team. I'm very well aware of team dynamics and personal issues and stuff. But it still didn't get put out in this form with these guys. The world now. I know it's a much more complicated world, and one of the things that is the X factor for all these guys, everybody in all the professional sports, especially in a league like the NBA, is social media. Something that was unimaginable, utterly and completely and thoroughly and positively, and it was like Jules Verne's science fiction. If you had told me in 1980 about what the world would be like with regard to this phenomenon known as social media, and how it would have affected some of those people in it, that back in the day. Well, it's an interesting speculation. So their world is different. I grant you that, but they do internalize a bit too much.
We'll get right back to Bob, but want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by betonline.ag. Lots of good NBA games coming up this week to throw some money on. Playoffs futures are available too, so really think about what you want to do here. You can bet on the Celtics money line. Celts plus 1,200 to win the NBA title, which is not a bad bet if you're a diehard C's fan looking to make some money during the playoffs. If you're not feeling as confident, just go series by series. C's are minus 500 to advance to the next round against inevitably Milwaukee, even without Marcus Smart. I'm not worried about Indiana, and the odds makers aren't either. So go to clnsmedia.com/CelticsBeat. Get a 50% bonus when you sign up and use the promo code CLNS50. Don't be left on the sideline with all this excitement going on the court. Plus, you can play in BetOnline's virtual casino, make some money there too. And you can always have those futures bets I talked about with the NBA or elsewhere. MLB season, that's in full swing. NFL futures already out. NFL draft is coming up. There are a lot of different avenues for you to bring in some cash. So whatever you do, make sure you use betonline.ag and use the promo code CLNS50 for a 50% bonus on your first deposit, or just go to clnsmedia.com/CelticsBeat. Let's get back to Bob. Jay King over at The Athletic, I don't know if you saw this, he wrote kind of a fun player survey piece on the C's with a lot of them talking about each other, handing out superlatives, stuff like that. And Irving, to no surprise, didn't take part in it. Not everybody did. Most guys did. I think maybe 10 or so. But the interesting takeaway, I think, is that he was barely even mentioned. Guys on that team didn't even really talk about him at all when they were coming up with these various categories, and some are simplistic, best dressed or worst taste in music or whatever. I'm going off the top of my head, but we've heard he's a loner, both here and going back to his time in Cleveland. We know he's an odd duck, but does this stuff speak to his place in that locker room at all?
Oh boy, I was unaware of this. I'm digesting it. And I think that's a reasonable assumption. Yeah, I mean, he's not. I guess is the word we want connecting. Is he connecting the way you'd like? Is he, because leading is another matter. We know we assume that he wants to lead. That's interesting. That's very interesting. Yeah, you would think since he is he is the marquee name on this team to the outside world. Then there's no question. But it's very interesting. I think that's a very good question you posed there. I think it's yes, I think it could be telling about his relationship. Now, does this matter when they throw the ball up Saturday? I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I think it's. I mean, when that game starts, they're going to play basketball, and he's going to play basketball, and I don't think any of this is going to matter. I think this is something for the long run, I think. And once again, it comes back to, is he going to stay? What's he going to do? My prediction, by the way, is that he'll play for 4 or 5 teams, and every team after he leaves will say, God, I couldn't figure that guy out.
So is that your belief, though, that, I mean, that's long-term? And
I expect him to go. I expect.
You do?
And I don't want him to go. I mean, I want to do it with him because he's so good. I mean, you're not going to easily replace him. And now,
especially when you consider you don't have the cap space to do it. It's basically free money signing him.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's the New York thing, I don't know what, wherever. But I'll be pleasantly surprised if the season starts next year and he's a Celtic.
So I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to do this a little bit later in the show, but we could do it now. I am of the belief that he will come back. Now, I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, and I know a lot of people seem to think that what we're going to see over the next little while is going to determine that. ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski, for instance, brought up Anthony Davis once again a couple of days ago when discussing Kyrie's future and whether the playoffs are going to impact that future in Boston.
With Kyrie Irving, the Celtics know this. Not only do they probably need to advance pretty deep in these playoffs for him to feel good about his future there, when the playoffs are over, the Celtics are going to turn their attention to Anthony Davis. And the idea of getting an agreement in principle on a trade with New Orleans for Davis before Irving becomes a free agent on July 1, the Celtics increasingly are feeling like that's what it may take to get Irving to commit long-term.
And Danny offered some thoughts on that same issue to NBC Sports Boston. I think answered it the way you would think he would.
We're just focused on the here and now. Both Kyrie and I have talked a lot, and we're trying to be grateful for the opportunity that we have right before us. And I'm not trying to not answer your question. I mean, I really am just, obviously there's, in free agency, there's A through Z and possibilities, and through the draft, and that's going to be a very big time. But right now it's the playoffs, and the playoffs are really fun.
So people keep talking about, you said, the New York teams, the Knicks, the Nets. Stephen A. Smith keeps bringing up the Lakers and the confidence there that they're going to have a meeting with him. Everyone has an opinion. And like I said, mine is that Irving is going to return. But going back to what Woj said, do you think, and I know you already said that you believe he's gone, but do you think specifically this next month or two, this playoff run, is going to determine whether Kyrie stays, or do you think he's maybe already made up his mind?
See, now we're asking me to get inside that mind.
Which is impossible, I know.
No, seriously, that's the whole issue, is that I have no idea whether it would impact him, or whether he's made up his mind, or whether he's or what is the determining, what will be the determining factors. That's the whole. See, that's the crux of the matter of the issue with Kyrie Irving. To me, that's all. That we don't have a clue, and you can't gain anything from anything he tells us, because it could change in the next 17 seconds. So I don't know. I don't know at all. I was just thinking about Anthony Davis, and thinking that if they were to get him, that they have to start finding someone to lay out his clothes. That. So I don't know. Maybe they can put a contest to see who would like to have a job of laying out his clothes.
But I wish I had that sound to play. But for anyone that is unaware, he shows up. Anthony Davis showed up to his last home game with the Pelicans wearing a shirt that, the Looney Tunes, that's all, folks. And then, asked about it and can't even own the decision. He said somebody lays out his clothes for him. Was that not the dumbest thing you've ever heard?
It is in the top 5, and it worries me. If I'm
is that a guy that you want to give up a whole bunch of assets for and build around?
It's not a deal breaker for me, but it's a worrisome little. It's a red light, and if I ever got him, what is this? That is the most. I mean, as you said, I've been around a long time, and that is the most bizarre cop-out ever.
I mean, just own it. Just own it.
That he didn't say, maybe this isn't a good idea, Joe, who his valet, his man, or whoever lays out his clothes. Maybe this one isn't such a good idea. I don't think that this is really the image I want to portray to the fans in New Orleans tonight. Maybe this isn't the one. I mean, it's just beyond. That's a head scratcher.
Yeah, I couldn't get past that. We're going to do some other stuff. Let's wrap with another thing or two just related to the Celtics and back with Irving, but on the floor. He is for a long time now, which is why this is prove it time. He has said that he believes when the playoffs roll around, they're capable of flipping a switch. Do you believe that?
Well, they may have already done so, but I don't like that phrase. That's a phrase. It's the common way that people have come around to describe teams that decide after not playing so well that they can take a deep breath and now start doing things the right way. I'm sure this is the assumption that this is the phrase going to be used with regard to the Golden State Warriors. Finally, but. Yeah, it has been done. the teams have pulled themselves together. As I said, this team is hard to get a handle on this year. There's no question, and they have not been a consistent period of time. They've given us glimpses. Those first 3 games on the West Coast. Tell me the truth now. Didn't you go, ooh, maybe we finally got it going, right?
Sure.
And after that Golden State game and the next 2, and no, that wasn't the final answer. But that the 2 Indiana games. I'm going to throw it back at you then. I don't know. What was your takeaway from the 2 Indiana games?
Well, I thought they were good wins against a team that, again, doesn't have an all-star, doesn't have Victor Oladipo.
But they were the most important games of the year for the Celtics when you come down to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And they stepped. That first one was obviously much closer. The second was a little more comfortable. They stepped up at the right time and did what they had to do. But this is a team that you're almost, and I'm this royal you, not personally you. You're just it's almost impossible, and it's unbelievable to say after 82 games, but it's almost impossible to buy in on this team because they have given us no reason to.
No, except the glimpses. You've seen glimpses. All right. Once again, the generic you.
Yeah.
You know it is there somewhere. It is there. If they play the way they are capable of playing, it is there, and they are the team that we thought they were going to be. That it's in there somewhere. We've seen glimpses of it. We've seen disturbing lapses. The defensive transition thing was horrible second half of the year. You got. Hey guys, get the beat back. How about that?
This team has more talent, Bob, on the roster than the one that finished within 5 or 6 minutes of going to the NBA Finals last year.
Minutes ago,
yeah.
I think it's the most talented roster in the entire NBA, 1-12. But that doesn't mean anything in terms of winning a championship if it's not going to mesh. And it's not the preferred methodology. Look at what the Warriors are now. I mean, go ahead, stop the next trillion people on the street and ask them to name 3 of their bench people now. They're all about. I mean, they're all about that. The marquee players and very little else.
Yeah, it's about that all-star starting 5.
Yeah, there's no Lou Williams on that team.
Mm-mm.
I mean, there's nobody. I mean, so I'm sorry. They're about those marquee guys, and that's who they are. But they're going to live and die with them. They're not going to be living and die with their 8th man.
So like we've said, and I do feel strongly about this, the Celtics should have no problem against the Pacers, even without Marcus Smart. But if they lose to the Bucks, presumably that second-round opponent, who were superior in the regular season, won 60 games, obviously have the best player on either team, is that, compared to what the expectations were coming into the year, is that a built-in excuse not having Marcus Smart, or do we call Boston's terribly inconsistent season an underachievement?
Well, the latter. For me, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be, I'm quasi-resigned, resigned to it. Yes, I mean, I've been resigned to I've lowered my bar. I've lowered my expectations going way back, going so way back in this season. And so I'm at the point where show me and I'll be pleasantly surprised. And I live that way a lot in terms of fandom and rooting, and try to not set myself up for a big letdown. So I'm going to lower my bar. I expect to beat the Pacers, and I'm not expecting to beat the Bucks this year. Unless I see something really good, that something in the Pacers series where we now finally see everything we wanted to see, which is conceivable with this group. You and I seem to be on the same page with the admiration of their raw talent level.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. I've been saying to people all year, when people I do stuff for out of town. I said it's not about talent. Remember now, when at the All-Star break, with the only team the trading deadline, they're the only one of the 5 contenders in the East that did not make some kind of move.
Right.
And I said to people, they don't have to make it. It's not about talent. They don't have to get better players. These players have to play better. And I don't think it's any more complicated than that.
Okay, so where ultimately, before we do a couple other things around the league, what is your playoff prediction for this team? How does it end? Where does it end?
Well, the most logical thing is that they beat the Pacers and lose to the Bucks in a hard-fought 6 or 7. And if they get by the Bucks, then I feel good, but not. It's going to be Toronto or Philly, and we all feel that they can beat Philly. I still worry about them beating Toronto. By the way, I think Toronto with Leonard this year is the team to beat. How's that in the East? And So that's that. So that's all. I'm looking for him. Beat the Pacers, and then go up against the Bucks and show me.
Let's go around the league a little bit because I've been anxious for your thoughts on this. We have to start in Los Angeles, where Magic Johnson stepped down as Lakers president of basketball operations without even telling his quote-unquote sister owner Jeannie Buss first.
It's hard when you love an organization the way I love this organization. It's hard when you love a person like I love Jeannie, and I don't want to disappoint her.
So what's great is that's the emotional tearing up Magic Johnson, and I don't have the cut, but there was also part of that lengthy press conference where he just held court with the media. Are you relieved or are you more comfortable? Because Magic keeps talking about how he wants to be his old self. He wants to tweet again and not worry about tampering implications. He wants to have fun again. Life was more fun before this job that he took a couple of years ago, and the team went 20 games under 500. But the audible sigh of relief, just the, "Whew, this is good." Like, thank God I'm moving on from this place. That organization, Bob, may have LeBron, I know, and quite frankly, Magic gets a lot of credit. He brought in LeBron. I think LeBron was signing there no matter who was in charge. I don't think it was a Magic thing. Maybe I'm wrong. But it is an embarrassment right now, that team. And Magic clearly was not interested in the job. Where do they go from here?
They're in big trouble because Jeannie's got to get away from family idea, and she's got to. I don't know if she needs a search firm, but they got to go out and find a good basketball person. And I'm shocked that they ever got to this. I would never in my life, if 10 years ago you would have told me the Lakers would ever be in this state, I wouldn't have believed it, because I was firmly in the belief that the Lakers would always be good. They would always attract free agents. There would never be the continuity would continue. They would never have anything worse than a 45-37 season, and I'm stunned that it's fallen into this. But as far as Magic's tenure here, I'm in the vast majority of people who have watched not just Magic but other jocks go into the executive job. And not being willing to go all in, and not being willing to put in the work, and it was predictable. The overrun, it's just like Phil Jackson was totally and completely predictable that he would do what he as he did in New York. This is pretty predictable that Magic would get. And the difference is Magic's he tried to treat this as one more business, one more of his. I admire Magic, what he's done with his post-career life. Magic Johnson has done a lot of good things for a lot of people with business, and that's great. But he's still got his mind racing in 10,000 directions, and he was not ever seen in the office. He was never seen out on the road. I don't know what he was doing. Unlike Danny. Danny is Exhibit A of the way you want to act Danny knows his way around every airport in Europe. Danny knows college gyms. Danny gets out there. Danny is on his job. Danny understands how to go about his job. Magic wasn't willing to put in that kind of commitment, and the Lakers need somebody that I don't know. I can't comment on Bob Pelinka exactly where he fits into all this, because Magic was the boss to him supposedly, but they have messed this thing up. They let LeBron bring in his kind of guys, and his kind of guys did not get the job done. And I'll say this though, one more thing about them: they were 20-14 after they beat the Lakers on Christmas Day. They were in fourth place. And then they went 6-11, and then of course the trade things with Anthony Davis. And the other day, Tyson Chandler came out and tweeted and said it was a factor. The kids did, in fact, fall apart, and we never recovered.
How do you think this impacts LA's ability to bring in another star this summer?
Here's the great question: the one we never would have posed 6 months ago or a year ago. Does anybody want to play with LeBron? And that's a question that it was the unthinkable, the unimaginable. A year ago, if I said that, you'd be saying, wait a minute, what's the matter with you? But it's out there now. It's out there. It's being floated out there. That it could be that the stars, they're looking at where LeBron is and how it works and his deterioration. Is he's 34 and now coming off a serious injury, and decide, I don't need this. And so I don't know. The Lakers, once again, everything that looked so logical to me 10 years ago about the Lakers, none of that's logical now.
Why don't we very quickly?
They've been 6 straight years now.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. First people didn't want to play with Kobe, and now and openly didn't want to play with Kobe, and now, as you said, who knows about LeBron? And LeBron, part of his legacy, fair or unfair, is going to be we know all the accolades, and is he the best of all time? He's certainly in the conversation. He's going to have a few titles. He's not going to win one in L.A. I've said that since before he went there. But part of that tombstone is going to be Coach Killer and GM Killer, which is just, it's I don't know, unfortunate for him, I guess. But before I let you go, because I've kept you for a while, what I want to do, quick hitter. I'm going to give you each first-round series that's about to start, and you just give me a line or two of what you're watching for and a prediction out of each one. You don't need to go down to games. You can just give me the winner if you want. In the East, Bucks Pistons.
Sweep. Bucks. Sweep.
How about the Raptors Magic? Obviously the Raptors, but
it's either 4 or 5. I'm bullish on the Raptors. I said that already, and I am. I'm bullish on the Raptors. The Raptors are going to roll over the Magic.
Sixers and Nets, maybe a more interesting series.
The Sixers are going to win, but the Nets are. You know what? Nets are going to go down hard, and Embiid is a big X factor now. Supposing he is impaired and is not what he can be, but he had a hell of a year. I think the Nets are going to scare him. I think it's going to go a hard 6 and that would be my upsets. It is not inconceivable that the Nets could find a way to win this thing.
Oh, I'd love to see that. Over in the West, a series that's probably equally boring to the Bucks and Pistons. Warriors Clippers.
Oh no. This is going to be, the Warriors are going to be, when it's over, they're going to wipe the sweat off their brow and say, oh boy,
okay.
Thank God that one's over. A hard 6.
It's a hard-working Clippers club under Doc Rivers. I'll give him that.
I just think they're going to come up big and be, provide opposition. I'll go back. They'll be like the Buffalo Braves in 1974 with the Celtics. Go look that one up.
The plucky Nuggets and maybe underachieving Spurs.
Yeah, the Spurs. This could be Pop's greatest coaching moment this year. And I think it's going to, but it'll end. Nuggets, I think, really, I'm big on the Nuggets too, and Jokic. So I'll say 5, but I'll say Nuggets in 5.
Blazers fresh off of getting embarrassed in the postseason last year, going against the Thunder.
Yeah, Thunder trying to get a handle on them. I think I'll go Thunder 7.
All right, last one for you: Rockets and Jazz.
Rockets are coming in feeling that this is their time. I think they win in a comfortable 6, as opposed to the sweaty 6 that the Warriors are going to have with the Clippers.
I know you like the Raptors out of the East. Is it the Warriors out of the West or someone else?
Yes, it is. I think it's going to be bring your passport to the finals, because you're going to be crossing the border, Warriors, to play the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Toronto Raptors, and they are going to defend, but they're going to work for it.
See, even while talking basketball, a little Bruins hockey on the mind as well.
I watched that game too when I wasn't watching the UMass game. I watched the whole UMass game.
Are we going to get a great story there? Obviously, we'll know how the outcome by the time this thing drops on Sunday. But what's is it a three-peat for the Warriors? End in another championship?
Yeah, it is. And then Durant, goes into the next chapter. Next phase, the next chapter of his interest, ever more fascinating career. Yes.
Yeah, another rented title. I suppose.
Would that be something if he just walks down to the other locker room?
That would be unbelievable. Yeah, that would be something
I'm throwing it out
to see.
there for fun.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't be the first. Bob Ryan, of course, longtime Boston Globe columnist and part of the CLNS family here as well. Bob, that was extensive. It was great. It was entertaining. Let's do it again.
Okay, anytime. You know that. Take care.
I love that, man. I genuinely do. I hope you enjoyed that show as much as I did. Just a ton of great basketball insights and opinions, and a guy who has just been around it and lived it for so long. I'd have him on every single week. Maybe that's the next project. Maybe we have a dual podcast, me and Bob. Let's just talk hoop and whatever else all the time. All right, we got to get out of here. We've run a little long, but today's show, it's brought to you by betonline.ag. Get a 50% bonus on your first deposit by going to betonline.ag/CelticsBeat and using the promo code CLNS50 at checkout. Thanks again to Bob, my producer, Evan Valenti. Thanks to Nick, Larry, John, everyone else at CLNS Media. Look forward to the Bob Ryan podcast relaunching again pretty soon, hopefully. And, of course, thanks to all of you. We welcome your feedback. You can get me on Twitter at Adam M. Kaufman. brace yourselves. I will be tweeting a lot in the playoffs. I think some of you like that, I hope, anyway, or you could just mute me or something, whatever works for you. But we're going to have a good time. We're going to engage and hopefully not complain too much, at least in this first round. Again, I have the Celtics in a fairly comfortable win, whether 5 or 6 games. I'll stick with whatever I said to Sean last week, which I can't remember at this point. I think I said 6. He said 5. I believe that's what it was. I don't care. As long as they win, I don't care about getting the number of games right. Just win the damn series, Celtics, and go from there. And we'll keep doing this for a little while because I'm not ready to talk about the draft and stuff like that yet, or free agency. It's mid-April. Mid-April. Let's enjoy the postseason for at least a month. And even that would just not be long enough compared to what the expectations were coming into this year. Subscribe to Celtics Beat on iTunes. Leave us a review, a rating. We appreciate it. You can subscribe. All that sound you heard, much of it from the CLNS YouTube page. You can go visit there, subscribe, and hear a whole lot of locker room sound as well. We appreciate you. Keep on listening, and we'll keep on going with these shows. And again, thanks to everybody. And Gino, get us out of there, and I hope to see you at the Garden as well.
Hello, I'm Dan Lothian, host of the Behind the Media podcast on the CLNS Media Network. Along with Jimmy Young, we dive into the biggest media headlines each week with honest, informed, and sometimes irreverent perspectives. It's not all serious. We deliver information and entertainment. As we like to say on Behind the Media, we find the interesting in media so you don't have to go searching for it. Listen to our podcast and get prepped for the next trip to the water cooler. Subscribe to Behind the Media wherever you get your podcast, or find us on www.clnsmedia.com.